I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need to work harder. You need to buy back your time. This is something that I've personally been navigating the last entire year of outsourcing and delegating. And today I want to break it down very simply, the best practices to delegate, to set up systems, and to scale your business on autopilot through delegation and outsourcing. I'm sure you probably heard this from probably so many other business owners, but really think about it for a second. If you're looking at this camera, look at your current business, whether you're an influencer, a creative, or a social media manager. I know a lot of you are. Look at your current business. If your current business cannot run without you physically in the business, I hate to break it to you, this is something that's all over the internet, but you do not have a business, you have a job. And this is something where you need to shift your mindset from that of an influencer and a freelancer to a CEO. And this is something that I learned the hard way, but this shift changed everything in my business, which is why I'm so passionate about today's video on how to create systems step by step. What is a system? How to outsource and delegate, especially in the creative space, and the exact steps that I use to outsource to my team. So if you feel like this might be you in your business, stay tuned because we have some really great systems and implementations for you throughout this entire video. Really quickly, if you're new here, I'm Kira and I have a social media management agency as well as a creative recruitment agency that I run fully remotely from Thailand. I live and breathe delegation and systems, so this video is very personal to me. I'm outsourcing right now from the heart of Thailand, and being able to create sustainable systems and SOPs and playbooks has changed the name of the game for my business, which is why I'm so passionate about it and which is why I want to share so much value with you right now today. For a bit of context, I worked as a social media manager for years. And the thing is, a lot of the clients came to me with the same problems. Most founders, when they're looking to outsource social media, or maybe even virtual assistants or executive assistants in general, come to me with the same problem, and that is chaos. And you know what? I am guilty of this myself as well. A lot of us founders have so many ideas and we're always the visionary of the business and we're thinking of X, Y, and Z. And our brains are like a brain dump and scatterbrain of all of our ideas and concepts and systems. And most of the time, not a lot of business owners have systems and structure to scale, to actually scale and run without them. I don't know if you've seen the trends on social where it's like my notes app, X, Y, and Z. That is like that of a lot of creative entrepreneurs or business owners, and there's no systems in place. The thing is, I see it truly all the time, such great ideas going to waste because of the chaos created by the founders. And as a social media manager, or even the business I now have with my EAs, we help business owners to actually go in and systematize, but there's so much money left on the table because of that chaos. So today we're going to debunk all of the ways to help you sort that out, create systems, and scale, which is the number one goal in any business. Now, I'm going to get so honest with you because this is something that I think is really important for you to understand. You need to recognize when you're being the bottleneck. And up until last year, I was the bottleneck in my business. For context, I had hired at that point around 3 positions underneath me. I had these roles and I was outsourcing and delegating things. However, I was still overseeing everything. Solely my approval relied on every single aspect of the business. And I hate to break it to you, you don't need to do that. You do not need to be a bottleneck. You need to have systems and create SOPs to scale without you. How do you recognize though when you are actually being the bottleneck, even if you've taken all the steps and you actually hired an outsource, because that does happen. I'm gonna tell you, this is the exact cost of not having the right systems. Even if you have some systems in place, the cost of not having the right systems. Chaos causes decision fatigue. And this is something you don't even maybe think about. This could be subconscious as a business owner. If you have to approve every single little thing, in the back of your mind, when you go into a day, you have all these notifications of approval and your final task of sending everything off, it creates decision fatigue for you as an entrepreneur that just holds up your day and it just floods your day with tasks that aren't moving the needle actually forward, which is something that is so important for you to only stay in your creative zone of genius. After studying thousands of books, thousands of system leaders such as Matt Gray, Layla Hermosi, Dan Mortel, the person that I name dropped in the beginning of this, I like to call it the TCA framework. And why I'm so passionate about this is because I think it pulls a lot of different philosophies from a lot of great thought leaders. So number one is getting familiar with creating an SOP. What is an SOP? This is something that has personally changed my life through and through. It's called a standard operating procedure. I like to think of an SOP like a library of any task I've ever done in my business pre-becoming a freelancer, post-becoming a freelancer, any little minuscule detail that I do in my business, I document and I have a database of SOPs. I'm going to show a little bit on the screen of what some of our database of SOPs look like, but these are ultimately a documentation of processes that I do day to day, and I actually like to split it up by department. So I have a marketing department, I have an accounting department, I have an onboarding department for clients, I have an offboarding department for clients. Every single little aspect of your business, think like a CEO and start to create a database of documenting your time when it comes to systems. Some of the most common SOPs that I help my clients with as well, say we want to go with just Instagram specifically, how to post a caption 101, how to do hashtag research, how to do competitor research. Those are just examples, but those are processes that you can start to document and that you can start to record yourself as a founder, what you do day to day that you can actually start to delegate out. But I'll provide actually a template that we use for some of our clients. You can have this for free. I'll link it in this description. I just think it's really important for you to start documenting what you're doing day to day, so then you can delegate and outsource and change your life for the better, the right way. Now you're starting to think like a CEO. You're starting to document and record yourself doing systematized tasks and building out an SOP database. Something to keep in mind while you're doing this. There's a difference between an SOP, what we just talked about, and a playbook. And this is where I think a lot of these frameworks that people tell you how to delegate get it wrong. An SOP is a system that you do day to day that you can delegate. Great. We went over that. We learned that. A playbook is the why and the how, which is so important for whoever is in your creative team or business to understand the why. And why is that so important? Because that is how you get them to think like your second brain. That is how you get them bought in on the vision. That is how you get them to take the leaps in their position, where it's almost like a career and a milestone for them. Having them understand the why behind what they're doing is so important. SOPs are the manual, playbooks are the mindset. I'll give you an example because it can be a little bit difficult to understand at first, especially when you're new to everything systems. For the creative world specifically, an example of an SOP would be how to post on Instagram, the exact size and dimensions, different types included in how you post, and everything that's included with best practices. That is a systematized task that you can delegate out. A playbook would be, say, for example, your company. So for my example, would be Limitless Social playbook on social strategy for Instagram. And in that playbook, you would not only link to the SOP, but you would link and describe the why behind posting on Instagram. And honestly, update that. That's something that we'll talk about in a little bit, but updating your SOPs and playbooks, honestly, once a quarter is what I typically recommend to clients, is so important. Now that you understand exactly what an SOP is, exactly what a playbook is, and why they're so important for your business and how to implement, I'm going to give you an example of how you can actually start to stay in your creative zone of genius, because that's the whole point here, right? The second you start to buy back your time, start to delegate, start to outsource, this is where you get the highest ROI, because as a founder, as I'm sure you know, you need to stay in that visionary state. You need to stay in that state where you are in your creative flow and all the ideas are coming in, and that is your zone. But that being said, the number one question I always get is how to actually start to identify what to delegate and what to outsource. I'm going to give you a step-by-step process of exactly how to do that. Step one is to brain dump and to start actually managing your time and tracking your time on what you actually are completing in a day. By brain dumping, I mean look at your current day jobs, look at your current tasks, what you do day to day, and what you're spending your time on. Actually start to track your time when it comes to things that you're doing, and write down and identify areas of your business that you can start to outsource. The best first hire that I always recommend is, at minimum, a virtual assistant or executive assistant. Most actual founders, like Buy Back Your Time and other thought leaders here on YouTube and LinkedIn, actually say to score your system. So I'm going to tell you something different. I actually think tracking your time is a better framework, and I'll tell you why. Yes, you can score your systems on, say you have a scoreboard of what's most important to you, what moves the needle forward. That is all important. Do not get me wrong. However, I think tracking your time really shows you first and foremost the exact tasks that are sucking the life out of you as a founder. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're only doing the tasks that put you in your creative zone of genius. So while you're tracking your time, start to realize who is owning what. If it's you, great. If you're only looking to hire an executive assistant, assign it out and it will make your life 10 times easier. Even just the psychology of simply on paper, in a ClickUp board, in a Notion board, assigning a task to someone else has psychologically proven to enhance your productivity. So try it out and start to assign or look at different tasks in a different light. And I promise you it will make you more productive as a business owner. Okay, all of that being said, we learned how to delegate, we learned what a playbook was, we learned how to actually manage your time and track your time to find and identify the activities of what to delegate. The most important part, arguably, I might be a little bit biased, is finding the right talent. And finding the right talent, there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. There's a lot of different criteria that you can really dive deep into what and who would a good hire look like for you and your business. But say, you don't really feel like you're at that step yet. I actually am thinking maybe I'll make another video on the criteria to find the best of the best, top 1% talent, ambitious high achievers. But if that's something you're not looking to do on your own, I actually offer a third-party service where we provide the top 1% of global talent trained, and we actually provide systems and playbooks, some of which I talked about here. We can do that for you, but of course that is completely up to you and your business. It's an entire game, and there's so much psychology behind finding the right hire. But trust me, that is arguably the most important part. If you follow all these steps and you delegate and you don't have the right person on your team to delegate out to, it's only going to hurt you in the long run. So just make sure that if you are following these steps and you're looking to scale and you're looking to invest in yourself as a business owner, you have the right person and you take the time to understand how to hire and how to retain talent, because it's only going to hurt you in the long run if you're not doing it. Last but not least, this is very new to me. I'm brand new to YouTube, but this is something I am truly beyond so passionate about. I think being able to invest in your business is an amazing step, and I am so excited that you're watching this video. I'm so excited that you're taking the ambition and the strides towards a better tomorrow for you as a founder. I know so because I've been there, and I'm doing so right now in Thailand. The last piece of advice I'll leave with you is a quote from one of my favorite books, is that you don't scale by doing more, you scale by letting go. And I think a lot of founders and thought leaders can get really deep into momentum and making sure you're moving the needle forward and working these crazy hour days. And sometimes I'm sorry to say, it's not just about that. It's about delegating and working smarter, not harder. So congrats on making it to the end of this video. Be sure to invest in yours. Take all of these tips that I provided to you and implement them into your business. And like I said, if you are looking to hire, send me a message. But I'm so excited that you are taking these steps, because I promise you, your life is about to change.